Let me just say this. Swords are kind of a hard sell, especially caster frame swords. This is the ritual weapon, Chivalric Fire. Today, we're going to be going over what is on this ritual sword. Now, this is a void caster frame, the only legendary in the game like it. And no, Black Talon is not a caster frame. It's its very own thing. And even though I love Black Talon after its most recent updates this past year, Chivalric is a legendary weapon. And it essentially aligns with other caster frames, such as Temptation's Hook or Soulless Scar, both of which, by the way, are pretty old at this point. Now, at base, Chivalric's stats are the same as these two. Swing speed, charge rate, it's pretty much all the same. Now, to start, let's look at the base performance, then try to identify what, if anything, would make this brand new blade stand out. Caster frame damage profiles have not changed here. Against Carl, Chivalric does 22,905 damage per line attack and 10 ticks of 6,872 damage per heavy at full power, for a max damage of 68,720 per single heavy attack. Now, the heavy will cost you 5 energy, but remember that attack power is no longer reduced if you're short of the full 5, despite what the weapon description says in-game. Now, compared to lightweight and vortex frame swords, caster frame damage output in PvE has never really been a strength, but it's that long range, that tracking shot, that makes it pretty good to use inside of PvP. Actually, taking Chivalric into Crucible will net you a one-hit kill with standard rules, whether with light or heavy attacks. Now, last season, Bungie updated sword performance significantly, which we broke down in detail, making Sword Guard a much more viable tool for damage mitigation. Chivalric Fire's Guard perk is Balance Guard, giving it a pretty average 40 resistance and 40 endurance, meaning your guard will block around 85% damage for up to 3 seconds with a roughly 2.5 second cooldown and recharge rate. Now that we've covered what makes Chivalric Fire the same as its fellow caster, let's talk about what makes it different. Like all ritual reward weapons, you'll receive a role that's fully masterworked and perks curated by Bungie. Here are those perks: Tempered Edge, Balanced Guard, and in our first column, Relentless Strikes and Repulsor Brace. In our second column is Attrition Orbs and Destabilizing Rounds. Its origin traits are Vanguard's Vindication, One Quiet Moment, and Run and Gun. These are the ritual origin traits, by the way. Now, notably, there are no alternative perks in columns 1 and 2, meaning the row you get here, guys, is all you get. So the Scarf, Temptation's Hook, they have guard options like Burst, Enduring, and Swordmaster to tailor its defense to your needs, with blade perks like Hungry Edge, Honed Edge, and even Jagged Edge to tweak damage and ammo. I know the build craft and roll chasing landscape for swords isn't the richest part of Destiny, but as the third element in a trio of casters, Chivalric Fire is sorely lacking in something its siblings have in spades, and that's flexibility. So what are we left with? Really, just 2 perk combinations are worth discussing out of the possible 4. The first is Relentless Strikes and the new Attrition Orbs. Relentless Strikes refund sword energy heavy ammo after landing 3 line attacks. So if you spend 3 ammo for throw swings, you get 1 ammo back. That's enough to keep your damage rolling to proc Attrition Orbs, which generate an orb of power on sustained damage. Now, as a new perk, we're still learning its quirks, but on Chivalric Fire here, there are 2 ways to proc this as tested against Carl. First is rapidly landing 10 line attacks in a row. Second is throwing a single heavy attack and then letting its rapid damage ticks do the rest. Now, either option will spawn a singular solitary orb of power, but let me just say, guys, neither is really that efficient. Now, there seems to be a 4-second cooldown on Attrition's orb spawn, which can easily be maximized by spamming heavy attacks. But overall, the ratio of ammo to orb here means you're better off throwing some siphon mods on your helmet than relying on this perk alone. Relentless Strike softens the blow with the light attacks, but it takes over 4 seconds to even spawn the first orb. And good luck staying alive long enough to spawn a second. You're better off relying on the artifact mod Wished into Being, which will generate 3 orbs on a heavy attack kill, albeit with a very long invisible cooldown timer between drops. Now, the second combination is far more exciting than the first: Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds. These are both perks that have screamed potential in the past, but never truly broke into the meta due to limiting factors like low weapon time to kill or even debuff application. But together on a weapon with huge reserve and high damage, Repulsor and Destabilizing turn a caster frame actually into something unexpected: a PvE ad clearing monster. Killing an enemy with Chivalric makes nearby enemies volatile, and then killing any of them grants a void overshield that lasts for 7 seconds. You stack this on with Vanguard Vindication to get yourself some extra health on kills, and you can mow down crowds of enemies in your path without a scratch. It's a hard left from the likes of Soulless and Temptation, but what this sword lacks in flexibility, it starts to make up with this level of fun. Now, given how ammo-hungry Vortex frames are, this is a legitimate alternative for crowd clearing with a decent high damage heavy attack to go with it, which takes us to a build in our best use case. Now, first, before we get into this, I need to mention, I'm not saying this is meta, but there is a way to push this much further than what you would think on the surface. Now, some activities that this really shines in are things like Savin Inspire, Altar Summoning, even this season's Coil. Pretty much any anywhere that your fire team is at that's about to get swarmed by ats, even champions. Now, these chain kabloomies will clear weak enemies fast. They'll also burst down the tough ones and keep you shielded the entire time. When Bungie actually reworked Sword Guard, it was with the knowledge that swords needed to offer more protection to justify the risk of running in with them. This is one of the first to do that, both by allowing you to guard against big threats and aggressively charge through smaller ones. Again though, not quite meta, but an option we haven't quite had with a legendary before. Now, to enhance the performance, guys, you're going to want to use this on Void type. Throw on the controlled demolition aspect, and now you're able to double dip on both volatile and healing. Not only do your weapon kills make enemies volatile, but so do your abilities. And Repulsor Brace doesn't discriminate here either. Add on the fact that nearby volatile explosions heal you and your allies, and you just got a hell of a lot tougher. Now, interestingly enough, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, if you run out of ammo, this doesn't stop things for your sword, as destabilizing rounds apply volatile on final blows. But the effect with our build here doesn't require sword ammo. The repulsor destabilizing combination works even when ammo is depleted, allowing you to hack away at enemies with no concern for ammo while exploding everything and still staying shielded. But Cross, what about our base sword damage? Doesn't it greatly diminish here? Not if we use a certain exotic. And no, it's not Stronghold, although you can if you want. Instead though, we have Syntheseps. You see, no energy attacks are technically considered melees. Hence why Bungie in the most recent sword update for this season fixed an issue where unpowered ammo-less swords would receive buffs from Banner of War. But we're not on Banner of War. We're on Void, going for kabloomies. And a non-energy attack against Carl is 7,527 damage. When we proc bionic enhancements, which is really easy here considering you're rocking a sword, that increases it to 19,231. Now, this is not that much further below the 23,000 we were doing with our light attack. So you could definitely run this Synthesept build alongside Chivalric Fire for a no ammo run. Granted, there are definitely limiting factors here. Don't go running into a Grandmaster Nightfall with no sword ammo and Syntheseps and expect to run it flawlessly. It's more or less a situation that if you do find yourself with no ammo, you're still good. You're still in the gunfight, or I guess in this case, the sword fight. Overall, guys, this is a fun sword, and it completes the trio here of our light subclasses. Again, we had an arc caster frame, a solar caster frame, and now a void caster frame. That's a legendary sword. Now, don't see Chivalric Fire shaking up the game anytime soon. It's got some funky combinations that have potential, but it definitely loses out on flexibility considering it's a ritual weapon. And for the most part, it does offer a PvE performance that really could be executed by like a grenade launcher or even machine guns or pretty much any ignition or volatile build. I know we just came off of last season where Malediction was like a must-have ritual weapon, and I really do love Malediction. Chivalric Fire is definitely not something you need to go out of your way to get tomorrow. But for my folks that like caster frames and also like to find ways to synergize with Void 3.0, this is definitely one you can make work for you. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.